We married 5 years later at 22, fresh out of college. A year later, we had our first of youngsters, both boys, now 22 and 17. For 23 years, I gave to her. I constructed her a residence, labored my ass off to present her the existence she wanted. Positive, we had hard patches, but what marriage doesn't? Even within the worst of instances, we located a way to drag through and pop out the opposite side better, which made the invention of her affair that rather more jarring. Flashback to March 2020 after I first were given the feeling something become off. For a very good 2 months prior, we were in a funk. I used to be at the mend from reconstructive knee surgical operation. I blew out my ACL inside the fall of 2019, but nevertheless lacked movement on the time. I'm most effective had approximately 50-55% range of movement on my knee. This took a toll on pretty loads within the house. I was out on workers' comp due to the fact I had been injured at the process, and I was unable to do my regular household responsibilities. So, a lot got subsidized up. My sons would do what they may, but obligations best I used to be able to doing had to be placed on the lower back burner, or my spouse needed to do them, which she wasn't thrilled with. Matters also crawled to a standstill in the bedroom among us. It had already slowed down previous to my injury, but inside the country I used to be in at the time, absolutely stopped. In the course of these months, Susan, my soon-to-be ex-wife, changed into spending extra time putting with co-employees later on. Between November 2019 to March 2020, it changed into an everyday prevalence for her. Clearly, I idea nothing of it. I by no means, in the 23 years I'd been together with her, had any reason to worry or now not trust her. She has her pals, I have mine, and we've got mutual ones. I'd pass dangle out with my pals all the time, and there was no trouble. It become all above board. It was round January of this 12 months that I observed something odd. Susan began getting relatively distant from me. Certain we had been in a funk, but she'd never deny me affection to that factor. The standard hugs and kisses she'd supply me came to a halt. Her smartphone turned into attached to her hand long before my suspicion grew. However, she constantly shared and showed me matters she determined on the internet. Diets, recipes on Pinterest, memes, all forms of stuff. She changed into now being guarded about her telephone. Even her interactions with me have become more snippy, as if she couldn't be bothered. We're now in March, and COVID-19 has arrived. Big Apple Town is locked down. Our selected careers fall beneath the essential designation, so neither folks has to work at home. I had just been cleared to go back to paintings after 5 months on the shelf, and I used to be eager to get back after it. 5 months of rehabbing my knee and not being able to do physical stuff drove me nuts. For context, I enjoy physical sports. I'm an avid martial artist, and that I'm typically within the health club 4 days, every week, on pinnacle of all of the house tasks I did. Within per week or two of the lockdown, my quickly-to-be ex-spouse signals me that she's going to have to start installing extra hours once more. I assume nothing of this because of her area. I used to be below the belief it'd be every other day, but no, it become each day, and not simply an hour or two. She'd come domestic 3 or greater hours later, pass straight to the bathe, spend a touch time with me, a bit time with her 17-year vintage, after which go to mattress. As I was capable of assist myself on my knee better, we began getting intimate once more. But, as you'd possibly wager, she wasn't mentally or emotionally present for it, which I observed quickly. By early April, the image started out getting clearer to me. All the signs and symptoms have been pointing to the concept that she turned into having an affair. That's when I decided I needed to discover solutions. So I scoured the net for things I ought to be seeking out, signs and symptoms of infidelity in one's companion. Positive enough, she become pretty a good deal, ticking all the packing containers on such behavior. So, my seek inquiry advanced to how I could find out. I commenced with her social media, looking at her FB entries from months prior. It's quite a great deal the same old. Snapshots of us and our sons, snapshots together with her and her buddies, and a variety of pics of her nights out with co-employees. In these photographs, It's a blended bag of her closest pals from work and a couple of oldsters I've in no way met from her paintings. However, I see one routine aspect in a number of those photos. One man in every photograph. He's instead uncomfortably close to her. His arm is around her shoulder, or his hand is on her lower returned. Men are too close for a guy I by no means for my part met. Pointless to say, that put a bitter flavor in my mouth. However, that wasn't the worst of it. No, no, no. The worst changed into the truth that reputedly this dude is a pal of hers on FB and follows her on Instagram. So I went to appearance up his FB account, and wouldn't you know it, I'm blocked. Why the hell am I blocked from seeing this guy's FB account? But he's buddies together with her on FB. At that factor, I wasn't even looking to deny it. I knew she turned into cheating on me with this guy. My challenge became to find out for a way lengthy. Over the path of April and Mike, that's what I did. You know, I in no way had any clue about the intensity of information you can secure from cell phone text and electronic mail fax till then. We've a own family plan cell phone bundle, and I used to be capable to tug up pretty a chunk of data. My soon-to-be ex-spouse's statistics records became telling. The two most common numbers she had interacted with from October 2019 to April 2020 were my personal and a number of I'd by no means seen earlier than. Take a wild guess whose number it changed into. A quick test on Google confirmed it was the dude from the photos who blocked me on Facebook. We'll name him Kevin. Once more, the photograph becomes even clearer at this factor. However numerous their messages and texts had been disjointed, which meant she was deleting lots of them. I knew she'd become cheating on me with this guy, but not anything in the information may want to serve as a smoking gun. I needed extra proof. It turned into at this point that I instructed my satisfactory buddy James what I had located. He asked me if I had confronted her with what I had, and I said no due to the fact I felt find it irresistible wasn't enough. That's when he instructed me approximately an app that I should download to Secret Agent on her communications in real time. I won't say the name as I don't know the regulations on that right here. I were given it installed, synced up my records plan, and waited. Within days of doing so, I sooner or later noticed it. A text string among the two of them speak me about how a whole lot fun they'd had the preceding night and making plans to do it again that weekend. Boom! Intestine punch. To mention I used to be absolutely devastated became an underestimation. I guess that second counts as my D-Day. For the next days after, I was simply broken. I actively distanced myself from her. The ones 2 days right away after D-Day, she changed into quite shaking through it. She attempted to console me and inquire from me what turned into wrong, but I'd brush it off and leave her presence. I couldn't even study her. This girl who I gave 23 years of my lifestyles to, who I've given the entirety I ought to and extra to as a husband, and she stepped out of doors of our marriage for a man just 5 years older than our eldest son. By using the third day, I wasn't even unhappy anymore. I used to be pissed. So, I fireplace up the app, and positive enough they're definitely texting in actual time. She tells Kevin, I understand he's dishonest on me. I requested him tonight, and he literally laughed in my face. He fell on the floor and laughed for like 5 minutes. It wasn't 5 minutes, glaringly. However, he doesn't even care how I feel anymore. I don't recognize how or why. However, he's long gone. I know I've misplaced him. That is karma. I realize it. A smile I had on my face, analyzing that need to have resembled the Cheshire Cat. She changed into breaking. Kevin attempted to console her, saying that if I cared enough for her, she wouldn't have come to him to present her what I wasn't giving her. However, the tone of her responses told me she changed into having doubts now. She had the nerve to step out of our marriage because I was not able to fulfill my position as a husband because of a legitimate injury and stored the affair going for almost a whole year. However, the concept of her losing me to another girl became sufficient to make her waver. What a weakling. Now, during all of this, I used to be also exacting the second one part of my plan for payback, getting all of my affairs in order financially. In September, I had met with a family attorney to get the ball rolling on divorce papers. With the mountain of proof I'd piled as much as that point, Big Apple is an at-fault country as some distance as divorce goes, and the overwhelming amount of proof I'd accumulated showing Susan's infidelity pretty much solidified. I could nail her to the wall in a divorce case. My lawyer informed me to get all of my financials in order and training for something Department of Assets would possibly come as an end result. I went one higher than that, secretly pulling all of my money out of our joint account and placing it into my private account. I additionally began purchasing round for and rental as part of segment 2. We're now in November, and I've no longer changed my behavior. In truth, I've ramped it up. This is in which my pal and comes into play. For context, Ann and Suzanne have in no way been what you'd name close. I met in freshman year of excessive college, years before I met Suzanne. Being way returned then, Suzanne has visible Ann as a hazard, as she's my closest girlfriend. There's usually been an implied I don't believe her from Suzanne concerning Ann. She's never addressed it immediately, but it's apparent to anyone who pays interest. Conversely, Ann has in no way been a massive fan of Suzanne. Early in my and Suzanne's relationship, Ann referred to as interest to me about how Suzanne changed into quite a whole lot, implementing herself into our little rectangular of pals, while I didn't do the same with Suzanne's set of friends. That irked Ann due to the fact she knew why Suzanne was doing it. Amongst Suzanne's circle, even now, there are no male friends aside from Kevin, whereas Ann is the handiest lady in my square, and have been caught distant places due to the virus and sooner or later lower back to Big Apple on November 3rd. James, Joey, and that I decided we were going to have a good time or go back with a KN at Joey's residence for dinner and drinks. There have been only 5 folks. James, Joey, Joey's spouse, who is also Ann's sister, Ann, and myself. Sticking to CDC recommendations, we took the corona very seriously. Ann, being the evil mastermind she is, comes up with an evil idea to trigger Suzanne. She advised we take a few photos inside the same vein as the pics I found of Suzanne and Kevin months prior and submit them to my Facebook. And that's simply what we did. It wasn't until the 5th that Susan got wind of it, as I'm guessing a few buddies noticed my updates and saw how uncomfortably close I used to be with Ann. This actually were giving her mind up because she nevertheless believed I used to be cheating, and I can almost guarantee she wanted to accuse Ann, but she knew that Ann had been caught in Europe for the general public of the year. Still, it didn't forestall her from trying to dress me down that night for being so handsy inside the pics. I noticed this as a golden possibility to supply the lead jab for my knockout blow. I stated, "So what about the pics with you and Kevin from last year? He changed into pretty handsy in them. However, did you see me get banned out of form over it? No. The snapshots aren't what harmed me. The year you've been with the dude while lying to me, which you're working more hours and hanging with friends, is what harmed me. That night time, Susan has been greater, mainly clingy and attentive to me. She's attempted to initiate affection and intimacy with me, and I'd stonewall her at each danger. All the while, I'm nevertheless archiving the whole lot she's announcing to Kevin. By this point, I'd lengthy when you consider they gone numb. Any desire I might have had to keep my marriage become useless. I looked at the day I enacted the primary phase of my plan. She's confiding in him that I've gotten worse, that she doesn't understand what to do, and she seems like I in reality hate her. In the meantime, comes the bombshell. She says she will be able to see him anymore. The guilt is an excessive amount for her, and she or he feels like karma is suffocating her. She will be able to risk losing me. She says that she loves Kevin deeply, however continues to be in love with me, and has to store her marriage before she loses me. No, my expensive. You're approximately 8 months too overdue for that. Kevin loses his cool, saying such cute matters as, "She doesn't love you the manner I like you, and you're creating a mistake. You may simply throw me away like this." The textual content chain will be the last they'd have until about 3 weeks in the past. At some point of the remainder of November into December, Suzanne is tucked in limbo, trying to gauge where my headspace is and remains unable to tell if I'm sincerely untrue. Meanwhile, Kevin is regularly blowing her phone up daily, but she's now not responding to him. I'd see her check her cell phone regularly and quickly placed it away. Meanwhile, Section 2 of the plan turned into now officially whole. The divorce papers were finished. I'd observed myself a studio rental in Co-op City. New Yorkers will understand the location, and signed a 2 to 12 months lease on it. All of my cash become in my private account. I used to be equipped to throw my haymaker. So, we're now at Thanksgiving. My oldest and his female friend were website hosting a small amassing of our instantaneous families. Them his lady friend, her dad and mom, she's a most effective infant, myself, Susan, and our youngest. We had a remarkable night time. My oldest female friend is reading to be a chef, and she does all of the cooking herself. The girl can cook dinner, allow me let you know. As I had to hold up appearances of nothing being wrong among Susan and me, I initiated affection along with her numerous instances that night. Kisses at the cheek, lovable little hugs, wrapping my fingers around her shoulders from in the back of. The gestures didn't cross overlooked by her as she reveled in it. Bear in mind, this turned into the first time I touched this woman since I kissed the pinnacle of her head the night she faced me in October. So pretty much 2 months. Now, not gonna lie, I felt repulsed doing it however I needed to. I couldn't chance the plan, and me being remote to her in the face of my boys, my oldest girlfriend, and her dad and mom could activate alarms. So, my youngest makes a decision he desires to live over along with his massive bro for the night. Suzanne and I head domestic. On the power home, she thank you me for being so top to her and says, I don't recognize what you're going through, infant. However, I'm here for you. I needed to hold off busting out in maniacal laughter and answered by means of saying, I recognize. I simply want time. For the primary time realistically given that springtime, we had sex that nighttime. I figured with what I'm approximately to do, may additionally as nicely get a few movement before I delete her from my existence. I received pass in a detail, however it wasn't lovemaking. When I used to be completed, she turned into a lump of flesh lying there, seeking to determine out the route of the truck that ran her over. No cuddle or anything after. I just got up, showered, and went to sleep in my workplace. As to her confusion, even though I used a condom for the primary time in damn close to too many years, I did. She become without a doubt confused via it, however, didn't ask questions. Certain as hell wasn't going uncooked in her knowing that she'd been doing so with Kevin for months at that point. I awaken tomorrow and check my on Handandy secret agent app, and for the first time in weeks, she answered to Kevin. The dude went complete on nuclear. He professed his love for her, stated she became wasting her time looking to relight a flame in me that died lengthy in the past. That she'd been in a prison with me for 23 years and deserved to revel in the love and affection of a person who would cherish her. Thoughts you, this dude is 27 years vintage, 5 years older than our oldest son, and he's that sprung on a 45-year vintage married mother of. What a grade A. 86F6A44306F beneath is a 5134 AC situation. She chose to explode our marriage and damage the house we'd built for this dude, quite boy with a tender side. She replied, pronouncing pretty plenty the identical thing she stated when remaining they talked, that she loves him and enjoys their time collectively. However, she will be able to lose me. I'm nonetheless the affection of her existence, but she'll always have a place for him in her coronary heart. That they are able to nevertheless be buddies if he chooses. However, the physical dating between them is over. He begged her to see him one ultimate time that week, and yep, you guessed it, she said sure. One extra for the road, right? Who am I to mention whatever? That's what I did to her the previous night, of course. I brought all of that to the archive I compiled. December 4th is when Phase 3, the final section of Operation Shinobi Ghost, started. The divorce papers had been in hand. My new location of house became set up. Now I needed to slowly begin moving my stuff out of the residence. But first, I had to break the information to my boys. I called my oldest to the residence that Friday night and had them join me in my office and laid the whole thing on the desk. Not the specifics, however, that their mom had been cheating on me for over 12 months, and I used to be going to be submitting for divorce. My 17-year antique become particularly shaken up via this, because he himself had recently skilled his first taste of infidelity. His first girlfriend had cheated on him simply 4 months prior. Seeing his coronary heart broken a 2D time at the concept that his very own mother become capable of doing this hit him tough. My oldest took it lots higher and cautioned taking his brother in to stay with him till this blows over, to which I agreed. We packed up a number of his stuff, and he requested me if I was going to be okay. I told him, yes, son, I'm going to be all right, and so are you. We're going to be all proper. I promise. After which they have been off. The toughest part turned into now over, and it turned into now time to arm the nukes. Over the following couple of weeks, every day, James might help me get a little of my most touchy stuff out of the house. I gave him a list of all the exact stuff to grab while Susan and that I have been at paintings and left him the spare key. This changed into all stuff Susan wouldn't word became lacking except you advised her it became gone. I'd additionally gotten a new phone and made contact with wide variety and told anyone who needed to know James, Joey, and my boys, Big Sis Tier, and my mother, my new touch data. In the meantime, I'm retaining up the ruse with Suzanne, and he or she's none the wiser. Trickle bits and portions of affection to her simply to hold her off the path, at the same time as she's still in contact with Kevin. Now, not to the extent that they've been previous, but there's nonetheless an emotional thing taking place. The fog is skinny, however, it's still there. Even as I accumulate everything, and I do mean the whole lot, each bit of facts I've archived considering I started the plan, name logs, texts, photographs, emails, everything, and start making printouts. Folks, I ought to have spent over $1,500 on staple supplies. Printer, ink, paper, binders, the works, and cataloged the whole thing. So it's from the start of the affair till that final bit weeks in the past. On December 16th, inside the binders, 14 of them, I then positioned everyone in a container and gift-wrapped each, addressing them to diverse people. My mom, my father, exceeded away 7 years ago. Her parents, her sisters, her brother, and her HR department. Did I forget about to say Kevin works for the same employer? There's an expressed rule in opposition to intercompany relationships due to the character of what she does. Several of her pals, Kevin, and Kevin's dad and mom, all lugged all of these to the published workplace and shipped them all out on December 16th. IEA for shipping December 22nd to 24th best. So, we're now on Christmas Eve. Suzanne comes domestic round the standard time, no idea if she'd visible Kevin. I'd prevent monitoring her at the app at the 18th, figuring I'd gotten all of the mileage I needed from it. As consistent with usual, she showers, hangs out with me a chunk, I blow her back out at the residing room couch, and he or she turns in for the nighttime. The very last section become upon me at long closing. The nuke I'd been arming on account that June becomes subsequently approximately to be released. Within the middle of the night, I wakened and wrapped up one of the 3 ultimate binders with the divorce papers taped to the interior cowl and set it on my side of the mattress with the observe that stated Merry Christmas on it. Subsequent to it, I left my old telephone and the business card of my legal professional. I packed up to the rest of my maximum needed items, sufficient to fill 2 backpacks, and left my domestic that I spent 23 years in for the closing time. To Suzanne, I am absolutely off the grid, gone, shadow ghosted. She's blocked on FB, however, still hasn't blocked me for some motive, so I'm maintaining tabs at the fallout. It's actually glorious. My programs have reached absolutely everyone I send them out to, and Suzanne is getting crucified. Her youngest sister completely dressed her down. Each of her mother and father have condemned her. My mom surely destroyed her. Like holy hell, I realize my mom has a median streak. However, the matters she known as Susan have been unfucking believable. From what a mutual pal who works in the Equal Enterprises are stated, she and Kevin apparently are being put on administrative go away as of tomorrow. So, yeah, probabilities are she'll be going into 2021 unemployed. As for the very last 2 binders, well, one has been grew to become over to my lawyer as my final little bit of proof for my approaching divorce. The closing one I put in my storage unit to be burned in Joey's fire pit when the divorce is very last. Do I experience responsible approximately this? No, not even in the slightest. 23 years I committed to this female. I gave her the home she desired. I gave her the own family she wanted. I gave her the life I felt we each deserved, and I loved her unconditionally. Never have I faltered, By no means have I strayed. Never have I even entertained the perception of breaking my vows. When a problem came up that I felt turned into affecting our marriage, I got here to her and told her, and we sorted it out as fine we ought to. She opted to find comfort in every other guy's bed instead of come to me and say she was unhappy with our intercourse lifestyles at the time. She decided to step out with a young punk who gave her the tingles. So, no, I haven't any sympathy for what I did or for her. She will burn in hell for all I care. The most I stand to lose is my house, a vehicle, and perhaps a pair hundred greenbacks a month in alimony. However, seeing as the divorce is filed underneath the statute of adultery and the Big Apple is at fault, that would get waived with the insurmountable amount of proof I've supplied. As some distance as I'm worried, she's lifeless to me, and I'm in no way searching lower back.